Today we're talking about permanent residence in Canada timelines. So when can you actually receive a decision from the government after submitting your application? So we're going to be showing you several examples of timelines that we've had with real cases in our firm, Weber Immigration. Those are Cory's cases. And what we're going to do, we're going to show you one case for express entry timeline, and then the second case timeline for in Canada spousal sponsorship. As you
Yes.
know, in Canada, spousal sponsorship right now is 28 months processing time. So we're going to show you what we see in reality. And is it really that long?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Cory, before we dive into the express entry case and timeline and all the milestones, do you want to tell a little bit about this specific client case? Because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. So this specific client for Express Entry was Canadian Experience class. She was here in Canada and she was using her foreign experience. So when she came to us, she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to use it. And the reason for that was that she gained this foreign experience on her summers back home when she was leaving. She was studying in school in Canada, and then she was from a Caribbean island nation, and she would go back home and she would work while she was home on her breaks. So she went for, I think it was 3 years roughly back home each time, and was gaining her foreign experience bit by bit by bit. And then when it came down to it, she was like, "Can I use this?" And we looked at the timelines, we looked at the documents, and we were like, "Actually, yeah, you can. You have, we counted hours. We were very specific about, like, physically counting hours and making sure we were down to the day that she was going to be okay with using this experience." And it was fine. And yes, in the end, she was approved, and she had done that by gaining that expertise bit by bit by bit over each summer, which was crazy. But yeah, it's totally allowed, so you can do it. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
so
an interesting
technically
case.
she was studying in Canada. Like I
Yeah.
think she was doing a bachelor's, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Hmm.
And it's just on her summer breaks from Canadian studies, she would just go back home and like on summer breaks just work,
Yeah,
right?
and she just had this kept the same job every summer. She kept it getting invited back to work for the same employer each time. And so yeah, she just using her she was also there for a few months before she left to come to Canada. So we combined all these different periods. So she had a few months from before she left to come to go to school in Canada, and then, 3 months for each period summer break. And adding all that up, she was able to get to 1 year. Yeah, and we used it. We broke it down, like, in her employment letter. We helped her create the employment letter with a breakdown of all the different periods. And yeah, it was a successful application.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's a common misconception for a lot of immigrants is that your 1 year of foreign work experience should be continuous or should be all
Yeah.
together. You can actually combine if you have like 6 months and 6 months, or in this case, it was like 2 months and 3 months and 3 months and three
Yep.
months and 2 months and whatever, right? So
Yeah.
we combine so many periods into like until we hit that 1 year.
1 year. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
of course, the employer was really confused about like how to write an employment letter to really like cover all of those periods. So we
Hmm.
just explained, okay, like you have to really be detailed and specific about the details.
Exactly.
So we really explained the employer, okay, like this is what you have to write in terms of like describing every little detail, just to make sure that it's really clear that she was cumulatively working for 1 year.
Yeah.
So let's
Exactly.
yeah, so let's get into timelines for this specific case. So first, we're going to show you this express entry case, which was CEC in Canada, and then we're going to show you spousal sponsorship timelines. All right,
Yes.
so you can see on your screen express entry case timelines. So we submitted that June 12th, 2024.
Yep.
Yeah, and then biometric requests we received July 1st. Do you remember, was the client a little bit nervous that it was like months and a half? Because it's pretty extended period of
Yeah.
time.
I think, even back then, the total timelines were still, I think, around 5 to 6 months, like by the government standards. So you can imagine, like, yeah, a month and a half for biometrics can be kind of scary. Like, oh my gosh, it's so long, considering the total time is only 6 months, and we're talking about 1.5 months, or 1 month and a bit just to get the biometrics. So yeah, it's a bit. hair raising, but obviously it ended up fine in the end, as you can see, right?
Yes. And medical passed August 1st, which is very common that medical passed is the same
Well,
exact.
this is when it just zoomed through, right? So you can see July 1st, biometrics, August 1st, like the next day, medical passed. 2 weeks later, background done, and another week later, final decision. Boom, everything just fell into place so quickly, right? So it's crazy fast. So I think the client at that point was like, oh my gosh, is something like, what's going on? This is crazy. She was shocked at how quick everything fell through, like came through, right to final decision in portal. And then portal step 1, August 30th. So you're talking about from July 30th to August 30th. That quickly from biometrics to portal 1 is crazy fast. So yeah, it's an amazing case of how quickly they can work when they want to, IRCC. And when cases are submitted properly, and there is no questions of anything. There's no requests. We never got any requests for any additional information, documents, etc. We put a really strong application together for this client, and you can see the results of this in how quickly it went from case submitted June 12th to ECOPR in her hand October 1st, 2024. So that's how quick it can be, right?
Yeah, but that being said, like requests nowadays are like pretty routine, and it's very often that people receive requests, right? So of course, you want to try to do everything to really mitigate those and really avoid those, but they may happen. And again, it's
that's
just
true.
because the system is not overloaded with numbers. That's why we're seeing these processing times for express entry. Because had they been inviting like hundreds and thousands of people more, then probably we would see much longer processing times.
Yes, of course. And that is true that, because I say that this case was submitted, it was like strong, a very strong case. All of the cases that we submit are very strong, and we still do get requests from time to time. And it's just like a background check it's not a background, sorry. Like some more information about like another form, fill this form out again, Schedule A background, fill it out again. And there's no real reason for that. Like we never did anything wrong. There was no mistakes made. It's just, I think it's a way of IRCC just, slowing things down, right? It's
Well,
not that
yeah,
there's no
and
mistake made.
exactly, and sometimes things take longer than they should, so then they would ask to refill some documents. So they would ask, and remember that officer always has discretion to ask additional documents as well.
That's
So
right.
maybe some documents were not technically needed from the beginning, but officer may choose to ask those documents, even though technically they don't have to really. So yeah, let's move on to in Canada sponsorship timelines.
Yes.
So that's more interesting because what the website says, it's 28 months, which is crazy.
Yeah. 28 months is crazy, off the charts. People like in shock about how long they're predicting this to take. So in our experience, it's not. So, in this specific case, I think it was a common law relationship in Canada, sponsorship, a common law couple. And you can see the case submitted March 3rd, 2024. Of course, no official AOR. I don't think I've actually received an official AOR for a spousal sponsorship case in a year or more. They're just not doing it. The first thing we usually get now will be the biometrics request. So you can see that was June 2024. So that's quite a bit of time between, March to June. It's a big chunk. And this was a strange case as well, because it like normally we don't see that big gap between submission and then to the biometrics request. I actually had to call IRCC to make sure nothing was wrong. The file, because I actually had the file in my tracker. Anyway, it was fine, but it is a bit of a jump there from March to June. But then again, like you can see how quickly things start falling, right? After biometrics is done, eligibility is June 24th, same day. July, so a week later, sponsors eligibility is met. And then another like less than a month, medical completed August 15th. And then background check November, and PR in November 25 Portal 1 access and ECOPR in hand December 17th, 2024. So for a total of roughly 8 months, right?
Yeah.
Again, we're not near that. We're nowhere near that 28 months. So, of course, this case was submitted in March 2024. We do have cases that we've submitted very recently. I'm not seeing any difference in basic timelines from this case to our current cases that are in the system. So, this is kind of par for the course, common timeline for most people, even that we've more recently submitted. So, again, nowhere near 28 months, but it just remains to be seen if that 28 months will actually, be enforced or be, the truth. I'm doubtful. Like it maybe for, again, applications that might not be so strong as that one was, as all of our applications are. So if there are doubts and if there are requests and things like that on the applications, of course, yes, that always extends your timeline. They give you 30 days to fulfill a request. That's extending your processing time. So always, as we always say, strong applications, smaller processing time.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so hopefully you're right that we're not going to see 28 months for spousal sponsorship. I mean, for going back to Express Entry, I think with Express Entry, we are pretty confident that processing times will be staying as they are, around 5, 6, maybe 7 months. Even 8 months for Express Entry is pretty normal. That's nothing to be concerned, like anywhere from like 5 to 8 months, nothing really to be concerned about. Now, we've seen recently huge delays for ECOPRs. So when we have cases on our hands approved, but people just don't get ECOPRs because of backlog. But
yeah,
I
think
think
there's
now,
a massive backlog.
yeah, but I think now we start seeing a little bit of movement with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So it started, the door started opening a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like it's less stressful because if your case is already approved, that's okay. You can wait a bit for ECOPR.
That's true. Yeah, I know. You're absolutely right. It's just mentally people want that PR, document in their hands, and I get that. And it's never fun to be just sitting waiting. You're potentially a PR, but just that document I need it in my hand. I get that absolutely to celebrate, right?
Yeah. And what we've had recently, and this is a topic for our next episode, what we had recently is people actually reaching out to us after they've had their COPR, and they were telling us that IRCC would launch investigation into their work experience after getting COPR. So we've had 2 occasions like that just recently in the last 2 weeks. So we will be definitely talking about that in our next episode. Make sure you like this video. We're really trying to promote our YouTube channel. So like this video and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.